another episode of Holistic Love. And I know that we're all on different journeys of what that looks like, and we're all really, really excited to really just receive the love that we deserve. But it always starts with us, and really self-actualizing that love first within ourselves so that we attract it to us. Today I'm so excited because we actually are going to be delving into where we originally found and really all the patterns in regards to all of our relationships to love. And we are talking to Kaitlynn today, and really just kind of like getting to the meat and the bones of why do we do the things we do? Why are we, all of our past, present, and current relationships are really just a reflection of our original parents and our original caregivers showing us and really being the example of what that love was. Now, was it healthy? Perhaps not. And that's what we're going to discuss today. Don, if you want to chime in and add anything to that.
Yeah, man, I'm just going to be adding some divine masculine, sharing some of my personal experiences, and here to learn as much as I can, and just be vulnerable and transparent, and just grow. That's it.
Absolutely. Kaitlynn, just tell us a little bit about yourself, and just share why this topic is so important. And I know the audience at home, they don't realize that why are we talking about this? It's because we've been doing the work ourselves, and it's a daily thing that we're doing.
So I, as you know, am a Scorpio. And a huge part of my kind of raison d'etre, I was like, oh my God, is it alive?
Not bad.
Is why? About everything. And I went through a lot of childhood trauma, but I had a really unique experience in that I said something very early. I was 10 when I said something and was taken out of my house. And had a very strange kind of piece of luck where my aunt put me into therapy right away. And she didn't just put me in with an emotional therapist, like the court-ordered therapist that I was sent to, as many children are. But she sent me to a spiritual hands-on healer who did a lot of alternative healing that I didn't understand to be alternative healing at the time. I didn't understand the drawing pictures and burning them and all of the cathartic kind of rituals that we were doing that's so important for healing. But at the end of the day, I got that healing. And as I went out into the world as an adult, even with that healing, I still struggled. And I saw so many other people who struggled even more. And I realized, I was like, we're reliving our trauma. We're doing the same thing over and over and over again. This is the source of it. We're reenacting these things. And over the years, as I've gone on that Scorpio search for more information, there's these pieces of information that just rung so true that I was like, oh my God, people need to know, this is it. If we just figured it out. I was listening to a podcast on neuroscience, and they explained that all of the neural pathways you use in childhood with your nuclear family are repurposed after puberty for your relationships that are romantic. Yeah. Whoa. So it's the road you've already been down is the easiest road to go down, right? Because that's the path that's already been tread. I really hope that's not me. Oh, none of my stuff's in here. It's over now.
Okay.
All right.
We'll edit that out.
Going back in. And go.
So, it's the road that's already been walked down. It's that path that's already been tread. So it's easy because you already have a roadmap for that. And that's when it occurred to me, the work is to make a new way.
Yeah.
But you have to choose to do it.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming on the show, and thank you for sharing that and opening up yourself and being vulnerable. And you are my Scorpion sister because we both have the same birthday. We're November 14th birthday. It's right here.
Ow. Look out.
Yeah. Hey, that's what's up.
Power for women, yeah. But yeah, no, I have to say that as someone who also has experienced, I was not fortunate enough to have a therapist, and I was not fortunate enough to have healers in my life to really like guide me down the road. But I did, after I hit puberty, have elders that like took it upon themselves. They saw like that, you know, I had all these gifts, and that I could really, you know, share it with the world. And they gave me some tools, you know, they did give me some tools, but like not everybody has the kind of childhood we had, you know, like that's not the normal.
I think though, actually, unfortunately, what makes me really sad is that kind of is the normal. Like 1 in 4 girls reports being sexually abused.
That's crazy.
1 in 10 boys. To me, that says the statistics, like the reality is probably double that. Because I know how hard it was for me to say anything. I said something twice and was pressured into taking it back. And something like 90% of people who come out about sexual abuse are completely ostracized by their family.
I literally told my mom and the mother of the family of like my babysitter, hey, your daughter's like teaching me how to make out. Like I'm learning how to French kiss, and I'm 7 and she's 13, and
that happens so
I have
much.
a crush on her. So like I'm a boy, and I'm telling my brother, he's like, yeah, whatever, thinking you're lying. Then I'm telling older members of like society or my immediate like group, and they're like kind of like, all right, man. And I'm kind of like,
that's what happens, right?
Yeah, and
they
it's
try
like
to reinforce it and put it off on you. Like there's something wrong with you that you didn't like it.
Well, it wasn't even that. Yeah, that part. Yeah, I didn't understand. Yeah, I processed that. Yeah, that's exactly what it was. And like, yeah, no, that's normal, bro. Like, hey, that's good. And so, you know, growing up, it's like, you know, my mom's friends too, like checking out of school early, that vibe. They're all happy hour Friday. Then there's 5, 6 of them drunk as hell in the house. And I'm just 1 a.m. going to the refrigerator in my boxers, whatever. And I'm like, oh shit, you know what I'm saying? You know, and it just goes down. And it's like, you talk about these things, right? But it's just like, I don't know, people just like glance over it or whatever.
And there's just like so few support mechanisms for men. Yeah. Like for people in general. But specifically for men, people are like, what? You didn't like it? Like how can you sexually assault a man? Or like,
bro, I was 7.
You should be proud. Exactly. Like you should be proud of it. Like, oh man, she's like, wow, you're getting them young, right? Like people say that. Like they really, it's so dark. You're like, whoa, dude.
Nah, and her friends were like, yeah, way to teach him how to do it. Like,
yeah.
All right.
Well, and it's also like the sexualization of black men and especially black children is so prevalent in the society. It's that kind of like jingoism and objectification.
Oh yeah.
That like, it's so dark. We should be so ashamed of ourselves.
No, it's. I literally talked to my mom about it, bro. I was like, hey man, so like how you used to like have us like gyrating and doing all that, like that shit's not cool, bro. That's like that's literally like a Chippendale show.
Yeah.
And how they're talking about, oh, when you grow up, you're gonna be all this and da 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 da. Let me know. I'm like, I'm a kid, and I'm like, oh, that's cool, whatever. But the reciprocal of what you're saying is that when I'm 18, you want me to like take you down, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And you're like low-key grooming me with this cologne,
like
these
high
clothes.
Key grooming you.
Nah, high key.
Obviously grooming you.
But that ties back into like the parental role, right? Because obviously I was sharing this with my mom, right? But there were maybe some favor that she was granted because, like, you know what I mean? I'm not saying she's like, go ahead, like put me out there or nothing like that, but like, you know, maybe her drunk friend spends the night more frequently because she's picking up the tab when they go out and buy, you know what I'm saying? So it's like one of those type scenarios. So
often, like, it's the majority of people whose parents like either completely ostracize them or pressure them into taking it back. I was pressured into taking it back by both my mother and my rapist 2 times.
When you say
before I ever said anything.
When you say take it back, what does that mean?
To admit that to say that I had lied.
Oh, it didn't
and
happen.
that I had made it all up.
Oh wow.
And that I was just looking for attention.
Wow.
And they pressured me into that twice.
That's gaslighting.
It's total gaslighting.
At an early age.
And we didn't even have the word gaslighting.
That's
yet.
what I'm saying, at an early age.
You know? Oh yeah, but that's how we end up gaslighting other people as adults if you're not careful, right? Because like you can't be a victim forever. Either you become a survivor or you become a victimizer. But you're not just like a victim forever. Like, oh my God, the world is getting me. Like, no, either you're hurting other people or you survived and you're helping people. But you're not just like not interacting with people or having an effect.
Survivor or victimizer. Right. Wow.
Well, and so like an audience out there, I'm so glad, you know, we're really getting deep here and we're really sharing and shedding some light on some things. And what's really important too is that like, no matter what your childhood was, whether it was maybe not as full of trauma or maybe it was full of more normal things. The thing is, we're kind of doomed to repeat the patterns.
Totally. It's not
We're-
just sexual.
whatever,
Yeah, no,
and
it's
it might have been a healthy thing you've seen, or it might have been an unhealthy thing. But when we're watching our parents, express love to one another, or not express love to one another, or stonewall one another, and not effectively communicate, we're picking it up, like especially before the age of 7 years old, our brains are like these little sponges. Like we are like, even in the Native community, it's like we look at this as like from 0 to 7, it's like they're still open to the universe. You're still open to source. You're like the closest to Creator God. And if you want to explain that on a more of like a scientific level, we're basically like our brains are just like absorbing every little thing that our subconscious is just picking up, and that just it just prints us down like a little 3D printer for all of our future interactions as an adult. Like we ask that question, why do I keep dating the same type of guy, or why do I keep doing the same type of thing? Well, you got to go back to the beginning, and that's a hard thing to do. And for I know you and I, who've had a little bit more trauma-based, scenarios, it's the only way to move forward as a survivor, as an adult, to do anything, let alone have relationships. But I mean, it's definitely a core curriculum that I would suggest to anybody out here. And there's so many tools out there, right, for like really seeing, what am I doing? How am I repeating these same patterns, right?
And it's also the best thing I think you can do for yourself and your kids, right? Because it's so much work to rewire your brain, conscious effort. Yeah. But if you can model healthy relationships for your child, whether that means staying with someone or leaving them, and like modeling healthy communication and giving them that love, then they don't have to redo all that work either that
Seriously.
you've done, like
100%.
Yeah.
And as far as like romantic relationships go, like it's not just sexual stuff that we're programmed with. It's like appreciating people, communicating. How do you express what you're feeling? Like, did you watch your parents yell at each other through your whole childhood? Do you just think that people yell?
Right. Is that your norm?
Yeah, like and really reviewing that, it can help you to like identify, okay, like here's what it is. Like, it helps you identify the source of the problem,
Right?
Instead of just like constantly externalizing it.
Right.
I mean, like, oh, this person did this or this person did that, or just there's nobody good out there.
Yeah.
You know?
One of the when I was like probably in my early 20s, one of the books that I read that really helped me really examine that and look at that, and it's an oldie but it's a goodie, is the Celestine Prophecies.
Yes,
Okay.
I read that when I was like 13, and it just like
Yes.
It like kind of calibrated me in a way. I say that too about the healer I went to, but like those pieces of information, it kind of like set me on my path and like understanding how people take energy from each other.
100%. 100%. So if for the audience that doesn't know the book, it's a book by James Redfield. It's called the Celestine Prophecies. I think they made it into a movie as well. I'm not 100%. But in the book, there's these insights, right? And you're following this young man on his journey, and in there it talks about these 4 drama controls. And it really, like the first thing it mentions is that you inherited them from your parents. And so that's a tool you can use to kind of look and see at your own pattern. And the 4 drama controls are aloof, interrogator, intimidator, and poor me, right? And so, as we like, and there's exercises online, I'm sure there's like a YouTube video. I mean, that book's been out forever and ever and ever. But like when you start to see, oh yeah, my dad was this and my mom was this, therefore I'm this, it really helps you have a greater self-awareness and self-understanding, because you don't have to be that way. And you can see, like, because, typically in relationships, what happens is when we start to get vulnerable with each other is that we fall back into those patterns.
Yeah.
And maybe not during the honeymoon period, right? But during once we've gotten comfortable with someone, once we've really like gotten to know them, then we start to become our parents in a lot of ways.
Well, yeah, and I think it's because like in that honeymoon phase, you're making really like mindful, conscious effort, right? To like be the best version of yourself,
Right.
But you're doing that for someone else. You're not really doing it for yourself, right? That's why like it doesn't work until you've done the work, because you can only pretend for so long.
Yeah.
Until you're like, actually, I'm kind of a jerk.
Yeah.
I'm going to do terrible things, and here's what they are.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, if you've done the work, then, like, if the terrible thing you do is leave the dishes in the sink and not, like, interrogate somebody about where they've been all night, then, like, the leaving the dishes in the sink is, like, more easy to swallow, right?
Right,
Because it's, like, these are small things that can be improved on.
Right.
Whereas, like, when you have these glaring, like, personality flaws, that's a little harder to overlook. You can't get like a housekeeper to come get rid of your bad personality.
Literally. And it's funny that you were talking about, you were referring to the Philistine prophecies, because I often have had to reflect on who my parents were, like what type of people they were, who my mother was, what the dynamics of their relationship were. I got to see my father be very casual and relaxed, and my mom just kind of like, rah, and he just kind of be like, all right, I'm just gonna let that happen. He used to have a saying, I'm gonna let you be where you at. And he would, you know what I'm saying, he would just, to what I saw as a kid, he would just be casual, but what he did was very passive aggressive. He would ignore her, like he would ignore her, and then she would lash out even more and be more. So then I got to see this as a kid. As I shared on another episode, I was one of those kids that was kind of like really aware of what was going on and asking questions and very talkative. So they were just kind of pushing me to the side. So that was one of those things I was able to notice, that like those are dynamics that I started to like assimilate into. And like, whereas I'm casual and I'm very not nonchalant as though I don't care, but I don't want problems. I've experienced enough of them. I don't in society I have my own, so like I don't want to bring that home. I want to have peace. I want to have a love mate, an adventure buddy. I don't want like that. So I found that like I've been with tumultuous women that were like super needy, super clingy, super angry, and I look and reflect, and I was like, wow, I'm looking for that comfort, you know what I mean? That thing that's familiar to me. And so what's been tough for me was, like I talked to you about, was being alone. But that's when I knew the work was happening, because I'm alone. And I'm trying to immerse myself here, but it's just alone. So now I'm on the other side of that, just excited to be like, okay, well, I've identified, that's where I learned, that's what I learned. Now I'm carving a new path. And I'm not gonna lie, it's a little bit intimidating sometimes, but it's fun though, right? Like that's part of being masculine, as you spoke about. The challenge of it makes me happy. Like going into this new brave space, talking to all of you women and being transparent and vulnerable, that's like exciting to me. You know what I mean? So thank you for sharing. And man,
100%, you know, and really it's like, and you can be doing the work too, and you still can fall back into those old patterns. You can get triggered, you know, and sometimes the deeper the wound, the harder you have to like kind of like really not have people around you that are going to trigger you in that way and continue that path. And you know, and like I said, there's the Celestine prophecies that you can look at as way. You can look at your attachment styles too. You can see how how are you attaching to people, because this is also stems back again to our original caregivers. And then, you know, another really good tool, I love astrology, y'all guys, because, you know, if y'all ever get a reading from me, oh my God, the first thing I talk about when I'm doing a reading is like, well, this is what you got from your mother, and this is what you got from your father. And they're like, ooh, I didn't know we were going there. Like, oh no.
I like telling you to do readings for people you haven't met yet.
Oh yeah.
And I already know. And I'm like, that's how you know it's real. You're like, yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I've had like Wall Street people like, you know, like come up to me and like, yeah, okay. And they're like wanting to get like more of like you know, how are you gonna tell me to get rich or richer? And then like, I'm like, well, there's a reason why you are doing this, and it's because of your parents and and you know, maybe your father casted the shadow on you and you feel like you can't live up to it, and they're like, well, damn, Fox, this is what I wanted to talk about. I'm like,
that's
no.
another Scorpio thing to do, though.
Yeah.
It's like, but it's like the quote from Pulp Fiction. It's like, if my answers frighten you, maybe you should stop asking such scary questions.
Right. Nah, for real. For
But,
real.
there's tons of tools out there. That's all I'm trying to say, y'all guys, is like, as you start to, peek in there, and all I'm saying is like, you're talking to two women who had probably one of the roughest, more on the, like very high spectrum of like, bad childhoods. If you're somewhere in the middle, or even if you're, you had the perfect childhood, going back and reflecting is so essential. Like if we've done it, you can do it, is what I'm saying. Like, yes.
That's actually one of the primary reasons that I've come to be super grateful for what happened to me. In a way, not like I would never wish it on anybody else, but I'm here where I am, and so I was built of sturdy enough stuff to withstand it and come out whole, right? And tempered rather than shattered. And now I can share the information with other people so that they don't, like, now I'm walking a path, you're walking a path. We're kind of like making this new way to break those intergenerational trauma wounds that we have, because it's a lot like vampirism, right?
Yeah.
Like once you're bitten, you're going to bite other people unless you have a lot of self-control. And so like being traumatized, any kind of trauma, whether it's sexual or emotional or
Physical,
like people who were beaten beat their kids more.
Yeah.
People who were abused abuse other people.
Yeah.
That's just hurt people.
Hurt people.
Like, and so it's just, there's so many tools out there to help people address it, and I just think it's important to give people the vocabulary and to show them that you don't have to be ashamed to talk about these things, because that's the only way for people to get to a point where they're comfortable being in these relationships, and it doesn't feel like you're constantly putting on a mask for the person you're sharing a house with.
Yeah.
So that you're like not just like trying to keep those first 3 months, that mask you had up, going forever. You can be comfortable with yourself and another person, and just be where you are and be okay with that.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful for you, Kaitlynn. I really am. And it's like, it's always good to meet another bad bitch, excuse my language.
Yeah, you're on me. I was like, don't cuss, Kaitlynn. Don't cuss. Everybody knows me. I was once described as a sailor who'd just gotten out of prison.
Nice.
They're like, hold it in, Kaitlynn.
Yeah, and but the thing that we're trying to get across to you guys, the thing that's really, really important is that when you start to recognize and see these patterns in your life, like, you have to realize the common denominator, right? In all of these relationships, it's always going to be you. And when we start to take personal responsibility, when we start to get out of the blame game, when we start to really focus on the real task at hand, and be forgiving too. Forgive yourself. No one is perfect. Forgive your parents too. Like, I have, as awful of a childhood as I've had, I have complete love and forgiveness for all of those who've trespassed against me.
Man.
And I have and it has made me who I am, exactly to say what you say. Like, I wouldn't be the Apache warrior woman that I am today to be able to stand up to anyone where I see injustice happen and not say something.
Right, because you've said something and you are still okay. A lot of people never say something, so they always have that fear of like, what will happen if I speak up?
Right.
And what you said really stuck with me about like forgiving your parents, because I didn't forgive my mom before she died, and I forgave her after that. It's a lot easier to forgive your parents once they're dead, but it sucks to have to do
It's
that.
easier to make people saints when they're gone.
Yeah, so it is.
That.
But going through that led me to forgive my father. My father is not the person that abused me. My stepfather abused me. My father was neglectful, but never malicious.
Right.
And I would never speak ill of him. And I forgave him because I had that experience. And so I've seen it both ways. I've seen like the obstinance of not forgiving and not understanding that like our parents, they were damaged too. And they were just doing what they could with what they had. They're not great. They're not perfect. It's a lot easier to understand that once you're a parent and you're like, oh, I'm not a saint now, so I guess they must not have been either. And to just understand that they were trying to deal with everything we're dealing with without any of the tools that we have now, you know? And forgiving my father was amazing. You know, like, you think about it, like, just because he didn't keep up his end of the kind of, like, social contract, I didn't feel it gave me license not to keep up mine and not to take care of him while he was old. And, like,
right.
And keep him there with me until he died.
Right.
You know,
I think that speaks volumes to your emotional maturity, though, right? Because
thanks.
you know,
I just needed a babysitter. No.
I mean, that works out too. Mutualistic relationships for the win. But no, shout out to you because so that's something that I've noticed with my mom. Like me being able to forgive her, it really started place when I recognized that I have tools and she didn't. Right, so you can't fault someone for something that's really not their fault, right? And then if I'm aware and emotionally intelligent enough to know that like she didn't know any better, and that I can love her through that,
Right.
And then I can know that like that's not something I need to take personal. She just did the best she had or she could, and that's just how our relationship has gotten a lot better.
Yeah,
That's really great because something that I realized too late, but I like really became clear to me after my mother passed, was that my obstinance and self-righteous in my own victimhood, no matter how justified it might have been by my circumstances, didn't help anybody. It didn't give me a mother. It didn't give her a daughter. It didn't help either one of us grow. It just let both of us feel righteous in our indignation and then never like come to any kind of like growth or anything positive. And so it is just the unfortunate like paradox of reality that it's typically the victim has to be the bigger person and do the forgiving, right?
That's tough.
Right.
Yeah, that's tough.
Right.
Like it's unfortunate,
But that's reality.
but like, you know, the victimizer doesn't have to forgive you.
100%. Yeah.
And but that's the growth. Like I was told that we all choose what happens to us here. You know? We make those soul contracts before we get here. We're not just like, oh no, this is done to me. Like, no, you set out like an agenda. And then you had to like approach other spirits and be like, hey man, I'm going to need you to do something kind of rowdy.
Yeah.
And they were like, all right, bro, but only if you forgive me.
Yeah.
And so like to keep up your end of the contract, you've got to forgive.
100%. Yeah. So,
Dark Tales from the Scorpion
woo,
Pit.
no kid. Dark Tales from the Scorpion.
That's another segment, Dark Tales.
That's a whole nother podcast, really.
No,
we might have to start that one too.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, like to just add to that, and thank you so much for sharing that, Kaitlynn. And I really love you, and for all, you know, seeing the woman in front of me is just amazing. I'm really grateful for that, and to you too, Dawn. Thank you so much for sharing that
My
with me.
Happy birthday.
Woo, yes, happy birthday, Dawn.
Thank you. I'm having an excellent birthday. I feel like it's just going to keep getting better.
100%.
I swear. I swear.
But just to like remind the audience too, and I would like to share a little something, you know, like, you know, having, you know, that stopping that pattern, right? Healing, like both my parents, you know, I had a 12-year-old father and a 14-year-old mother. Like,
Babies having
babies having babies.
having
Like that is
babies.
like
That's in the dictionary next to
yes,
babies having
and like
Literally.
I didn't really get to know my father till the very last. You know, he passed away like a few years ago. Like so, the last 8 months of his life, I got to know him, and then I found out all of the trauma that he experienced. That he was sexually abused as a little boy. That he, you know, he was actually a product of a rape. He was actually a product of a rape. So here's this baby who was a product of a rape having another little baby. And so, like,
right.
you know.
Right, like, because he's 12.
Yeah, he's 12 years
Like,
old.
just a little more than a decade after.
Like,
his mom
almost
was
my
raped.
peer.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
no,
right.
Literally.
Yeah, and
'Cause
my
12 is like what, 8th grade? 8th, 9th
Yeah.
grade?
That's 6th grade.
And my
Yeah,
I guess
that's 6th grade.
That's
My
6th
grandmother,
grade. That's barely
Seventh
not in
grade.
elementary school.
Wow.
yeah. And my grandmother, she was 11 when that happened to her too. You know, so it's like, so I you know, I have come here to, you know, to be the light. To be the light, you
Make
guys.
a new path,
with your
you
life.
know?
And I encourage everyone, you know, maybe your life was not to this extreme, but like whatever your patterns are, ladies and gentlemen, there's a road, there's a way out, and it starts with just examining yourself and then loving yourself and forgiving yourself. You know, we're all worthy of forgiveness and redemption, no matter how far the sin is, you know, because we are part of Creator and creation.
For sure.
You know.
For sure.
Woo, this has been a very deep episode. Oh my God. I think I've almost cried like at least 2 or 3 times just like hearing this. And, you know, I just want to let all of you know that wherever you are in your life, whatever is going on, you're not stuck. There is a way out. There are people who are feeling and experiencing what you felt before or feeling right now. And there are healthy, sane people in the world. You might not be surrounded by them right now, but I'm just saying that there are healthy, sane people. And by doing the work, y'all guys, we are rising everyone. We're lifting everyone up. Because when one of us rises, we all rise.
Oh, I love you, Fox.
Yeah. Fox is awesome. Shout out to her. All right, guys.
Is that it?
That's it.
We didn't go over this time?
No, that was like
Hey.
really right at 30. So.
Oh, I love you, Fox. Sorry I made you cry on camera.